Persona 3 has been making rounds lately as there's been a rumored remake in the works, and even though the remake has been confirmed to be fake, at least to my knowledge, it brings up an interesting question. Does Persona 3 need a remake? If you don't know what Persona as a series is, are you living under a rock or something? Persona is a JRPG series about a bunch of teenagers doing a bunch of maybe not so legal things while going to school and defeating world-ending demons with the power of friendship. There have been 6 games in the main series, with people forgetting that the first 3 exist. Also, yes, Innocent Sin and Eternal Punishment count as 2 different games. The game in question we're talking about is Persona 3, which released on the PS2 in 2006. Now, coming from a guy whose favorite game is Persona 4, and has played all but one of the games in backwards order, I didn't like Persona 3 at first. I thought that it was a product of its time, and that it got overshadowed by its successors, and while that is true to some extent, and that Persona 4 and 5 do a lot of things better than Persona 3, it still isn't a bad game. In fact, now with the game in January and almost beaten, I can fully say that it's a genuinely good game, and a lot of its questionable design choices, I can cut some slack because they were new to this at the time. Remember, Persona 3 was their first foray into this new style of Persona we have now. Personas 1 and 2 were almost completely different games compared to 3, so a lot of the bad game design comes from that fact. And I think that's why a lot of people are clamoring for a new remake, because even though some of them just think it's a bad game, and I think those people are insane, a lot of them also played the original and would love for the game to be received in a better light. And me too, personally. I think another reason that people are foaming at the mouths of a Persona 3 remake is because there really isn't a definitive version of Persona 3. Persona has always had an enhanced port of the games. Persona 1 and 2 had the PSP remakes, Persona 4 has Golden, and Persona 5 has Royal, and even though there are people who prefer the original vanilla versions, the general consensus is that if you want the best experience, 9 times out of 10 you're gonna go for the enhanced editions. Persona 3 is no different. In 2007, Persona 3 FES was released, being your typical enhanced port. Extra features and quality of life changes, extra cutscenes, and a whole new side mode, The Answer, which is apparently controversial, and expect me to talk about it when I'm done with it. This is the version I played, and what many consider to be the best version, but all that changed when Persona 3 Portable was released. Persona 3 Portable, or P3P, was yet another port of Persona 3, but this time with a lot more changes compared to Persona 3 FES. And not all of them were for the better. With Persona 3 being a big game and releasing on the PSP, they had to cut out a lot, meaning the full 3D map was gone, except for Tartarus, no animated cutscenes, and no The Answer. So you're probably wondering how people can consider this the best port of Persona 3, right? Well, there are other things they added which make the game just as good as the console versions. Releasing the game after Persona 4, a lot of the design choices there are put right here as well. You can now directly control your party members, which you couldn't do in Persona 3 Vanilla or in FES. You can finally resume on the floor you were currently on, instead of having to power through and find a teleport pad thing. And the biggest thing that changed the community, the introduction of a playable female protagonist. P3P now gives you the ability to play as a female MC, or FemC as some people call her. Playing this route gives you new dialogue options, some story bits are changed, and you can now enter social links with the guys, because that made me so upset when you couldn't do that in FES. And you can romance them too, except Junpei, he's taken. Oh, but if you choose the male MC, you still can't have those social links with the guys. Saddening. With these enhancements, however, people started claiming that this was the definitive version, but with its many drawbacks such as no 3D overworld and animated cutscenes, people still considered FES to be the best version, which, you know how the internet is, it's like a war zone out here. I barely managed to survive the waifu wars, not this too. I'm getting sidetracked. What was I saying? Oh, yeah. People started arguing trying to decide what the best version of Persona 3 is, and if you want my opinion, I don't know, go make your own opinion. They're kind of 2 different games for 2 different kinds of people, so you really can't say which is the definitive version, which is why people want a Persona 3 remake. With the technology and hardware we have today, Alice can make the best possible version with all the additions such as the FemC route and The Answer, and all of the P3P battle editions. You can even throw in some Persona 5 quality of life editions in there too. So, to answer the question said at the beginning, does Persona 3 need a remake? Yesn't. While a remake can do wonders for Persona 3's reputation and legacy, I think it's perfectly fine just the way that it is. Why did that sound like a lesson learned moment from a children's show? Well, I hope you enjoyed, and I'm gonna have to go edit my longest video yet. Please send help.